The story begins talking about the life and work of Emily Dickinson, an important American poet. But to understand Emily Dickinson's life and work, we must also talk about Sue, who was her best friend, her sister-in-law, and the great love of her life. In the town of Amherst, Massachusetts, lived the influential Dickinson family. Its most prominent members were Austin, Emily's older brother, and his wife Sue, the same Sue who was Emily's best friend and also her lover. In the year 1860, Emily lived in partial seclusion in a house she shared with her sister Lavinia, managing her friendships mainly by correspondence and having little contact with the world. Her main connection to the world was Sue, who not only the love of her life, she was also the muse that inspired her poetry, and one of the few people who had access to her poems during her lifetime. Emily and Sue knew each other at a very young age. They studied together at an academy for young ladies in Amherst. Back then, Sue gave her sweet looks, and Emily went around making suspiciously romantic remarks.
I myself was ready to marry you.
Well, clearly romantic remarks. One day as they were walking home from class, they were talking about how good they were at plays, how blue the sky was, and how many kisses they'd had. Emily was pleased with the kissing thing, but according to Sue, they weren't real kisses, they were friend kisses, you know, to reinforce the friendship. This terrible development of events doesn't sit well with Emily, so she asks Sue for a real kiss. Days later, Emily's parents announce to her that they are going on a trip to Washington. They and her two siblings, so they insist Emily to go with them. But she says no, that she'd rather stay home alone for a month and that her good friend Sue can keep her company. So there they are, alone at home, which is very good for them to practice kissing, and for Emily to write her first poems inspired by Sue. Unfortunately, that situation stops for a while because Sue went west to work as a teacher after graduating, but she returns to Amherst to see her friend Emily. Sue asks her about the poems she's written in this time without seeing each other, and then they pick up the kissing theme as well. Although who knows if they're real kisses or friend kisses to reinforce the friendship, we'll see. #gossip in development. Although not for now, because sadly Sue has to leave again. However, on this occasion they exchange letters. Emily tells her that she knows she'll be very busy, so she understands if Sue doesn't write her much, but asks her to at least write her a line every week.
And let it be, Emily, I love you.
Then while Sue goes working across the country, Emily, being rich, stays at home waiting for her letters and pining for news of her, and working on her poetry. Eventually, Sue returns to Amherst, but this time she's not going to flirt with Emily. This time she's directing all her romantic efforts at Austin, Emily's older brother. And well, since Austin is the heir to the Dickinsons, one of Amherst's wealthiest families, he's actually a pretty good catch, and that affair progresses pretty quickly. So pretty quickly, Sue is engaged to Emily's brother. Everyone in the family is very happy about the engagement, everyone except Emily because she is in love with Sue. When she gets the news, Emily leaves the room and Sue follows her. Sue tells her that she had to do it, that if she doesn't get married she will have to remain a teacher thousands of miles away, that this way she can be close to her. And Sue also assures her that her heart is hers alone, that her heart belongs only to Emily. Sue tells her that now they can be together because she will not only be her sister-in-law, she will also be her neighbor. She and Austin are going to build a house next to the Dickinson property, so that's the plan. She's going to be his sister-in-law, /neighbor/lover.
Oh.
Well, we can question her methods, but not her results, because the plan is a success, and 20 years later they're still together. But in stolen moments, because Sue is a married woman, and since she's married to Emily's brother, it's in her best interest that her husband doesn't find out about it. So Emily goes running as unstealthily as possible between the two houses to keep the secret. The biggest clue to their love was in Emily's poems, because much of her work was inspired by Sue. But since at the moment her poems are as secret as their romance, the secret is kept. Emily and Sue remember how it all began after Austin and Sue's wedding, a wedding Emily did not attend. Moving on from their romantic moments in the past, there's a problem in the present. Kate, a friend of Sue's, has heard about the mysterious Emily Dickinson, and since she has a lot of time on her hands and a desire for gossip, she has gone to her house. Not only that, she has managed to get the reclusive Emily to let her in. So Sue is very jealous because sure, she's married, but it's not like she's happy about it. She figured she had no other options and did what she had to do. So for her, the situation of Emily inviting another woman into her home and into her life is something completely different and not funny to her at all. So like the sister-in-law, neighbor, and jealous lover that she is, she quickly dumps Kate and goes to confront Emily, which backfires because she just happens to see that Emily had a poem for Kate. And that's not the only thing. Emily asks if Kate left a message when she's coming back, where she is. Finally, Sue storms out of there, but Emily has a foolproof plan to make her forgive her. She has written her a poem. However, she's not going to get off that easy. Sue really likes the poem, but she still won't forgive her and keeps giving her the silent treatment. Then Emily writes her a poem even more beautiful than the previous one, a poem dedicated to her sweet Sue. Aww. Sometime later, with Sue's help, Emily makes a collection of her poems. She wants to present them to Thomas Dickinson, one of the great poets of her time. She hopes he will help her edit and publish her work. Unfortunately, Thomas does not appreciate Emily's creative freedom and tells her that her work is ahead of its time. He wants to pigeonhole her into the poetry standards of the time. They come to no agreement, but Emily continues to send her poems to Dickinson by correspondence. When she was younger, Emily was unable to publish because her father would not allow it. She is trying now that he is gone, but has not succeeded. That has her deeply depressed, so much so that even having Sue with her can't cheer her up. And there is no more time to try to cheer her up because the children have arrived home. Fortunately, Sue manages to dissimulate.
Say hello to Aunt Emily.
Well, maybe they don't manage to dissimulate as well as they think they do. One night, Austin and Sue were having a house party. As soon as Emily arrives, Sue asks her to help her organize the coats. Yeah, secret code for making out upstairs. While they're there, Sue tells her that Kate is at the meeting. But Emily seems to have lost all interest in Kate. Of course, after that look and being ignored by Sue for weeks, Emily was left traumatized. So traumatized that when Sue comes downstairs, Emily rushes home. On the other hand, Sue isn't the only one having an affair in that marriage. Austin is having an affair with this girl Mabel who works for Emily. She hired her to play the piano for her, but Mabel took the opportunity to hook up with the rich Austin Dickinson. Emily quickly caught on to the situation, but didn't say anything to Sue. She found out one day when she saw them strolling by the lake, and Sue doesn't like this at all. With all the hypocrisy, she complains about Austin having a paramour while getting dressed after being with Emily. She is very upset because with Austin walking his paramour around town, she is sure she must be the joke of Amherst, and also because Austin wants to give Mabel some land. Dickenson land, her children's inheritance. But Emily reassures her, tells her that she won't sign anything, and for Austin to give the Dickinson lands, all 3 Dickinson siblings must agree, so the lands are safe. A month later, tragedy strikes the Dickinson family. Austin and Sue's youngest son dies, and quite inopportunely at the funeral. Mabel takes the opportunity to establish her status as Austin's paramour, and their relationship grows even stronger. As much as she can strengthen her relationship with a married man, I mean. On the other hand, Emily has continued to send her poems to publishers and finally gets a newspaper to publish one of her poems. Unfortunately, they publish it under a pseudonym because they are worried that a female author would not be well received by readers. And Emily's time is up before there can be any more of her poems published. She was ill and at a moment's notice succumbed to the disease. Emily Dickinson died in the spring of 1886, leaving behind a bereaved Sue and nearly 2,000 unpublished poems. After her death, Mabel, who was still working for her and had been interested in her poetry for as long as she worked for her, first tells Austin that she thinks his wife and sister were in love. And then, with the help of Thomas Dickinson, the writer to whom Emily was sending her poems, she publishes a first edition of Emily Dickinson's poems. Although in her lifetime her work was little appreciated as she was allowed to publish very few poems, Emily Dickinson's legacy remains. Today she is already recognized as one of the fundamental American poets. And so ends the story of the poet Emily Dickinson. See you in next video. Bye.